be a Grammy for the first time. I am so excited. I'm so excited. I can't even put thoughts together. Hi, I'm Kim at Middle of the Book March, and I'm going to be a Grammy in August. So excited. My very first one. My older daughter and her husband have been married for about 5 years now, and it's time. They finally decided, yes, we would like to try for a baby, and it didn't take very long. Oh, I'm so excited. Such awesome news. We found out a little before Christmas, so yeah, I can't wait. Along with that great news, there's also some really good, super good news. I finally cracked the ceiling of the 1,000 subscriber mark. Yes, as of filming, I have about 1,005, and that's whether the troll accounts or the bot accounts will deplete me, or if YouTube will show me my subscriber counts going down. I don't care. I have a screenshot of it, so I have evidence. Stay tuned for a different video. I will most likely do a 1,000 subscriber Q&A and an assumption video, but not in this one. I will post a separate one shortly. So keep an eye out. Very quickly, thank you all so much for any of you who have subscribed. I really appreciate it. It's so much fun to get to know you. It's so much fun to talk about books with you, and I just feel so grateful, and I feel like it's so encouraging to keep going and keep going. And that's my plan. So thank you so much. Now, let's talk about my bookish week for last week. I film on Fridays, late Friday afternoon when I have the chance, and that's what I'm doing today. My lighting is a little weird because it's a little later in the afternoon. It's a little cloudy. So let's go with it. I finished 2 books last week. And I might get a little bit skewered for some of these opinions, or one of these opinions. I finished The Yield by Tara June Winch last week. This is a novel that came out, and this has been all over BookTube. This was published in 2020. And so many people have already read it and raved about it. So many people have talked about it's on their TBR for early this year, and it was definitely on mine. So I finally read it. I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but I think it was more like a 3.5 for me. This is the story of a young woman who grew up in Australia, August Gondawindi, and it comes from an Indigenous Australian family, and an Aboriginal family, as they were previously called. And she fled when she was young because she just needed to get out. She needed to get away. And so she fled to London, and that's where she had been living. Her grandfather just passed away, and so she comes back to her family home for his funeral or memorial. And the book is divided into 3 different perspectives. The first one is hers, August, and it's set in the present day of the story. And then another perspective is the Reverend Greenleaf in the late 1800s, very early 1900s, who is a minister who sets up a mission on the land of this particular family back a few generations. So he's the one that establishes a mission compound, trying to spread the gospel to this Aboriginal cultural community of people. And we read, from his perspective, we read about the incidents of racism between the whites and the indigenous blacks who are there. We read about him founding this religious organization, and his motivations, he thought, were positive, but what did that really establish when he kind of took over in that area? And then the other perspective is a dictionary that August's grandfather, Poppy, was documenting, and he was documenting the Aboriginal language, this indigenous language, and he was listing out all of the words and what they meant. And August gets word that this dictionary exists, and she's determined to find it because the land that their family lives on is being taken over by a mining company, and they have a very limited amount of time to vacate their property, which they no longer own because of some government regulation, and it's been handed over to the mining company. So August is furiously trying to find the documentation of this dictionary her grandfather was documenting, because it can lead to the establishment of cultural heritage and identity, which would possibly save their property. The story was interesting. I really liked the concept of the story. The dictionary portion was really interesting because it wasn't just a dictionary. In the meaning of every word, her grandfather wrote pieces of their past and pieces of their lives. And it was very poignant, and to read the word along with its meaning, but then every single definition included like a very short story about his past and his family's past. So it was basically a dictionary of family history. To me, it felt like the changing perspectives got a little choppy, and it wasn't until the very end of the book where they converged and you understood why each part blended together and how it blended together. When it was the portions of August story, the writing was good. It didn't blow me away, but it was good. I was interested in continuing to read the story. And the portions with the minister of the mission organization is all epistolary. It was all letters. So it was 3 different formats. Not well blended through the book. Everything converges at the end, and the ending was a little rushed because you got quite far till almost the end of the book when it's finally a resolution, and I thought it was a little rushed put together. But interesting story. It was a very different format for me, but it was good, and I know that so many booktubers have loved that book. So, the second one I finished is The Complete Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. She is an Iranian author who currently lives in Paris, I believe. Now, this says The Complete Persepolis because there were, I think, at one point 4 different volumes, and there's several different translators. This was translated, and I think they were translated from the French because she had a French education as a young girl, and she's since moved to Paris. The translation of the first part is by Matthias Ripa. Translation of second part by Blake Ferris. And I believe if I remember my research, I believe Matthias Ripa is her husband. So those are the translators. Anyway, this is a graphic memoir of her life in Iran. She grew up in Iran, in Tehran, and at the start of the Iranian Revolution. And this is a harrowing memoir, graphic memoir. It's all in black and white, so that's kind of a sample of what the pictures look like. She actually ended up going to school for graphic design, so she designed the book. And this has since been made into a movie. This was winner of the Cannes Film Festival 2007. So this is Marjane's memoir of her life in Iran as growing up in Iran, coming of age story, war-torn childhood, war-torn teenagehood, where she eventually gets sent to Europe because her parents don't believe they can keep her safe. There's revolutionary activity, political activity, fundamentalist Islamic regime, extremism, women being relegated to wearing veils and burqas, and so many rules and regulations of what women can and can't do. Young men are required to have full beards and required to dress a certain way because of the fundamentalist regime. And I learned so much from this book. I learned so much about the revolution, about the wars, the civil wars, war with Iraq, the general attitude towards US and Europe and their oil stores and diplomatic relations based on the desire for oil. But it was definitely a poignant and harrowing story of her own, her personal history, and how she survived her teenage years and how she survived her young adulthood and how she left Iran for quite a long time, and then what happened when she came back to be with her family again. This doesn't pull or hold any punches, and it's very realistic. Talks about different people in her family who were kidnapped, tortured, and or murdered by the regime. Talks about a lot of different attitudes towards the government and politicians, about war. So it's a pretty harrowing story, and it's true. And that's why it's so educational. But I also really enjoyed the reading experience. The drawings are they're not super stylized, but they definitely match up with the text. And some of them don't give a super lot of detail, but they're simple enough and graphic enough where you can really see the images of destruction and murder and violence. So it was a very good book. Graphic novels and memoirs are very quick to read, and this one taught me so much, and I was really, really glad that I picked it up. That's what I finished last week. What am I currently reading? Very quickly, I am reading My Life in Middlemarch by Rebecca Mead. I was so excited to finally pick this up. I picked it up a long time ago when I was reading Middlemarch a couple years ago, but it's got a bunch of spoilers for the George Eliot novels. So now that I'm done with all of them, I picked this up, and I'm about a quarter of the way done, and I love it. I really love this. This is Rebecca Mead's experiences as a young woman, getting into her journalism career, and how she feels about the novel Middlemarch. I am also reading The Murmur of Bees by Sofia Segovia, and this is translated from the Spanish by Simon Bruni. She is a Mexican author, and this is a novel. This is a magical realism novel about a young boy who's born with a physical deformity, and he ends up being covered in bees who are protecting him. So far, I think at this point I'm about a third of the way through, and I'm reading this on my Kindle, but I liked it so much that I bought myself a physical copy because I want this on my shelf. And I'm a third of the way through. I'm loving the writing, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be happy to keep that on my shelf. I'm also reading on my Kindle Joan Didion's The White Album, a collection of essays, and I'm listening on audio to Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Ann Jacobs, and I am going to be done with that shortly. That is exactly what it says it is. It's her autobiography as a slave in the South. I don't remember which state it was, but during the time of the Civil War. Just a brutal. It's well told, and it's her autobiography, but it's brutal to listen to, because one of the most valuable parts about that book is her experiences as a female slave versus a male slave who has been quite graphically portrayed in movies, movies like 12 Years a Slave or Django Unchained. We see a lot of movies, or Roots, with a primary protagonist character of a male slave. But this is really valuable to hear her experiences as a woman and a slave in the South. Is that it? I think that's it. I thought I had something else to show you or to talk to you about. I don't remember. No, I think that's it. So yeah, what am I going to do this weekend? I don't think I'm going to do anything. Monday, my weather is supposed to be yucky on Monday, and I have Monday off because my daughter I don't have it off, I'm working from home, because my daughter has a day for Martin Luther King Day, and I'll probably get a lot of reading done if it's not busy at work. But I think that's all I have for today. Stay tuned for my 1000K video announcement, and I would love it if you took part in that. More details to come. And I'm going to be a Grammy. I cannot wait. Write me a comment down below. Thank you all so much for getting me above 1,000 subscribers. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you think, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye, everybody.